Emma Walker had not felt warm in 2 days. Her body moved because it refused to die, nothing more. Hunger made her weak. Fear made her clumsy. Every breath felt sharp in her chest as she stumbled through the high pines. She kept telling herself to stay awake, but her mind drifted like snow in the wind. Then she heard footsteps. Heavy, slow. Not animal. Not a ghost. Someone was coming toward her through the storm. She tried to stand. Her legs failed. Her hands shook. Her heart hammered so hard she could taste metal. What kind of man found a lone woman on a frozen mountain? And what would he do when he reached her? The storm rolled across the Ironback Mountains with a bite that felt personal. Snow drifted in long sheets across the ridge as Emma pushed herself through the undergrowth. Her dress was torn. Her thin boots were soaked through. Her fingers had gone past aching into something worse, something numb and frightening. She did not know how much farther she could go. She only knew she had to keep moving. Behind her was Ridgefield. Behind her was the life she had escaped. Behind her was a marriage that had drained every hope she once carried. The whispers, the shame, the cold looks from people who pretended to be kind. She had left all of that behind. And now the mountain itself seemed to ask what she had left to give. Emma's breath came in short clouds. Her lips cracked when she tried to speak even a small prayer. She paused beside a fallen spruce, leaning her weight against the rough bark. Her knees trembled under her skirt. Her bundle of food was almost gone. Her strength was going with it. The wind roared through the branches like a living thing. Emma heard something inside it, a low crunch. A second. A third. Someone was near. At first she feared a wolf, then a bear. Her tired mind raced through old stories she had heard as a child. But no animal walked like this. The steps were slow and sure, heavy enough to sink into deep snow, light enough that each sound felt controlled. Emma tried to rise. Her hands slipped. Snow stung her eyes. Her fear pressed down harder than the storm. A shadow came through the trees. A man emerged from the swirling white. Tall, broad, wrapped in furs and buckskin. Snow clung to his beard and hair. His shoulders looked wide enough to lift an ox. His boots sank deep into the drift with each step. He carried a rifle across his back and a pack that had seen years of use. His eyes were the first thing she noticed. Blue, clear as lake ice, watchful, quiet, not cruel, not warm either, just steady. He stopped a few feet from her, as if giving her space to breathe. "You're in trouble, ma'am," he said. His voice was rough from disuse but calm. "Storm's turning bad. You keep lying there, you won't last an hour." Emma wanted to answer. Her throat burned. The sound that came out was thin and broken. She tried again, but her words froze before they formed. The man crouched beside her, studying her face. She felt his gaze pass over every bruise, every cut, every tremble in her hands. He did not reach for her. Not yet. He seemed to think before he acted. "You walked far," he said. "Too far for someone dressed like that. Tell me your name." She tried to form it. 2 small syllables. Her lips barely moved. "Emma," she whispered. He nodded once, as if that was enough. "My name's Luke Barron," he said. "My cabin's close." "I'll take you there." Emma shook her head weakly. Pride or fear, she could not tell which pushed the refusal out of her. Maybe both. "I don't know you," she managed. He lowered his eyes for a moment, then lifted them again. "You don't have to trust me. But if you stay here, the cold will kill you. I'm not leaving you for the wolves." Another gust hit. The snow blinded her. She coughed and felt her strength slipping again. Luke made the decision for her. With one steady motion, he slid his arms beneath her and lifted her as if she weighed nothing. His chest was warm through the layers of fur. His hold was firm but careful, as though he feared she might break. Emma felt her head fall against him. She hated how weak she was, hated how good it felt to be held, even by a stranger. Luke moved through the storm with sure steps. The world blurred around her. White wind, dark trees, his heartbeat steady under her cheek. She floated in and out of awareness, catching glimpses of a small cabin ahead. Smoke curled from the chimney like a promise of life. Luke pushed open the door with his shoulder and carried her inside. Warmth rushed over her skin. Firelight flickered across log walls. She felt the heat from the hearth as he knelt and laid her on a bed covered with thick pelts. Her vision blurred. Her body shook. Luke's voice felt far away now. "Rest," he said quietly. "You're safe in here." Emma wanted to believe him, but the fear of men had lived in her too long. Before darkness claimed her, she wondered one thing. Why would a man who lived alone on a mountain choose to save her? Warmth moved slowly through Emma's body, like sunlight creeping across a winter floor. She lay very still, afraid that if she opened her eyes, the cold would rush back and swallow her. The crackle of a fire reached her first. Then the steady rush of wind outside, softened by thick cabin walls. A faint smell of wood smoke and pine filled the air. When she finally dared to move, a soft pelt brushed her cheek. A blanket, a real bed beneath her, not snow, not dirt. She opened her eyes. Rough-hewn logs formed the ceiling above her. Firelight flickered on the walls. A stone hearth glowed with steady flames. The room was small, quiet, and warm enough to make her eyes sting with sudden relief. Then she saw him. Luke Barron sat near the fire, working on a trap with slow, careful hands. His shoulders filled the chair. His hair was dark under a worn hat, and his beard caught the orange light. He looked younger than she expected. Tired, yes, weathered, but not old. He hadn't noticed she was awake. She studied him, unsure why her heart beat faster. Maybe fear, maybe something else. The floor creaked when she shifted. Luke's eyes lifted at once. "You're awake." His voice held no surprise, only quiet relief. Emma tried to sit. The room tilted. Luke crossed the space in 2 strides. "Easy," he murmured. Body still catching up. He steadied her with one hand under her back. His touch was gentle, almost careful. When she was sitting, he stepped away again, giving her space. "You've been asleep near a day," he said. "Cold had its teeth in you." "A day?" Emma whispered. "I didn't mean to. I shouldn't be." "You should be alive," Luke said. "And you are, that's all." Emma looked down at her hands. They were scrubbed clean and wrapped loosely with cloth. She hadn't done that. Luke must have. She swallowed hard. "Thank you," she said softly. He shrugged, uncomfortable. "Storm would have killed you. No sense letting that happen." A small wooden bowl sat near the fire. Steam curled from it. He brought it to her. "Broth," he said. "Venison. It'll help with the shaking." Her hands trembled as she took it. Luke noticed and set one large hand beneath hers, steadying the bowl until she got her grip. The warmth traveled up her arms and into her chest. She ate slowly. Each spoonful seemed to wake something in her. Luke watched quietly from a few feet away, not staring, just making sure she managed. "My name is Emma Walker," she said between breaths. He nodded once. "Luke Barron." Outside, the wind pushed against the cabin walls, but they held firm. For the first time in days, Emma felt safe enough to breathe fully. Luke returned to his chair. "You walked too far in bad weather. Anybody chasing you?" Emma stiffened. Her fingers tightened around the bowl. She looked at the fire instead of answering. Luke didn't push. "You don't have to tell me," he said. "Not now." Emma swallowed the lump in her throat. "I left Ridgefield. I had nothing left there." He nodded again, quiet as snowfall. "World down there can cut deep." Emma glanced around the cabin. Supplies lined the walls in neat rows. Furs hung from pegs. Tools were arranged with careful order. Nothing here felt careless or cruel. "You live alone?" she asked. 8 years, he replied. "Left after the war. Mountain made more sense than people." Emma understood that more than she wished to admit. She reached the bottom of the bowl. Her strength wavered again. Luke took the empty dish from her hands and set it aside. "You can rest. he said. "Storm's still bad. Roads will be closed for days." "I don't want to trouble you," Emma said. "You're not." His gaze held hers, steady and calm. "This cabin stood through worse storms than you." Something in the way he said it eased a knot inside her. He walked to a wooden chest and opened it. Inside were folded clothes, women's clothes. "These belong to my sister," he said gently. "Dress, unders, stockings. They'll fit better than what you've got." Emma touched the fabric, her voice small. "Your sister? Quote?" She passed. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. "Thank you," Emma whispered. Luke pulled on a heavy coat. "I'll give you privacy to change. Water's on the stand. Call when you're done." He stepped outside, shutting the door softly behind him. Snow swallowed him at once. Emma changed slowly. The dress was sturdy wool, warm against her skin. She washed the dirt from her face, her neck, her arms. When she lifted her head, she barely recognized the woman in the small mirror. Tired, bruised, but alive. "Luke?" she called. The door opened. He brushed snow from his shoulders, giving her only a brief look before turning to bank the fire. The room felt different now. Warmer, softer, safer. "You can take the bed," Luke said. "I'll stay by the fire." "I can't let you." "You can," he said simply. "And you will." Emma lay down, her body sinking into the blankets. Luke settled on a pallet near the hearth, pulling a fur over himself. The flames flickered softly. The room grew quiet. Just before sleep claimed her, Emma sensed movement. She opened her eyes enough to see Luke glance her way, not in hunger, not in claim, in quiet concern. For the first time in years, she fell asleep without fear. Tomorrow, she would learn what kind of man Luke Barron truly was. Morning light slipped through the cracks in the cabin walls, thin and pale as a ribbon of gold. Emma woke slowly, wrapped in warmth she didn't remember earning. Her muscles ached, but not with the sharp fear of the night before. This was different. This was the ache of a body trying to heal after too much cold, too much running, too much sorrow. Luke was already awake. He stood near the fire, rolling out dough on a wooden board. His sleeves were pushed to his elbows, showing strong forearms marked with old scars. He worked with quiet focus, moving as though he'd done this 1,000 mornings in silence. Emma watched him for a moment before speaking. "You cook?" He didn't look up, but she saw the faintest pull of a smile in his beard. A man has to eat. The smell of something warm filled the room. Emma sat up, pulling the blanket closer around her shoulders. "How long was I asleep?" she asked. "Long enough." He slid the dough into a cast-iron skillet. Storm eased some, but it's still rough outside. Emma looked toward the small window. Snow pressed thick against the glass. "I'm stronger today," she said. She meant it. Her voice didn't tremble the way it had yesterday. Luke nodded, but didn't turn. "Stronger ain't the same as ready to climb mountains again." His tone wasn't sharp, just honest. Emma eased herself to her feet, testing her balance. She stood a few seconds before her legs wobbled. Luke turned then, catching her elbow before she tipped forward. His hand was warm, steady, and she felt heat rise up her throat. "I'm fine," she whispered. "You're stubborn," he corrected. "There's a difference." He helped her sit in the chair near the table. His touch was brief, but gentle. Emma looked around the cabin, seeing things she'd missed the night before. A row of jars filled with dried meat and berries. A set of tools hung neatly on the wall. A shelf with 3 well-worn books. A rifle polished clean. A mug carved from antler. Everything here spoke of a man who lived simply but with care. Luke set a plate in front of her. Warm biscuits and a small slice of smoked meat. "You need food," he said. "Your body's been pushed past the edge." Emma picked up the biscuit. It was soft, warm, and tasted of salt and something faintly sweet. Her eyes stung. "You okay?" Luke asked. She nodded, swallowing hard. "It's just I haven't had a warm meal served with kindness in a long time." Luke didn't ask questions. didn't pry. He sat with her, eating quietly, giving her space to steady herself. When they finished, he cleaned the dishes with the same careful motions he used for everything else. Emma found herself watching him again, puzzled by the calm strength he carried like a second skin. After a while, she spoke. "You asked yesterday if someone chased me." Luke paused, turned. "You don't have to tell me." "I know." Emma breathed in, let it out slow. "But I want to." He sat across from her, elbows resting lightly on his knees, waiting. Emma twisted the edge of her shawl between her fingers. "My husband died a month ago. People in town whispered things, blamed me for his debts, told me I wasn't welcome. I left before they could decide something worse." Luke's jaw tightened, but he kept his eyes soft. "That town sounds worse than the storm." "It was," she said quietly. "Out here I thought I might find peace, or at least escape." "You found a blizzard," Luke said. "And you," Emma added softly. Silence settled between them. Not heavy, but warm, like a blanket laid over fresh snow. When he spoke again, his voice was lower. "I won't ask about what came before. You tell me only what you want to tell." Emma nodded. She was grateful for that more than he knew. A gust of wind shook the cabin. Luke stood, checked the window, then pulled on his coat. "I need to bring in more wood," he said. "Storm's picking up again. Fire won't keep itself." Emma pushed up from her chair. "I can help." "You can rest." "I want to work," she said quietly. "I want to feel useful." Luke hesitated. Then he nodded once. "All right, but you stay close." Emma wrapped her borrowed coat around her and followed him outside. The cold bit at her cheeks, but the air felt sharp in a way that woke her senses. Luke moved to the wood pile, lifting logs with easy strength. Emma took smaller pieces, stacking them in her arms. She felt clumsy beside him, but he didn't correct her or rush her. "You're improving," he said after a while. "At carrying wood?" She laughed. "At standing," he replied. "At breathing, at being alive." She stopped. The wind tugged at her hair. Something warm settled in her chest. Luke's eyes held hers for a moment too long. Something unspoken passed between them. Then the wind shifted. A faint sound carried through the trees. A distant crack. Not thunder. Not wind. Luke's expression changed. "What was that?" Emma whispered. He set down the wood and reached for the rifle by the door. "Something I don't like," he said. He stepped in front of her, blocking the wind, and whatever else waited beyond the trees. Emma's heart thudded once in her chest. Something was out there, something coming their way. Emma stood very still, the cold biting through her coat, as Luke listened to the forest. The wind whistled through the trees, shaking loose small flurries of snow. At first, she heard nothing unusual. Then, another crack, sharper this time. Like someone stepping on frozen branches, Luke shifted his stance. His body blocked her from the open clearing without him needing to tell her why. "Get inside," he said quietly. Emma didn't move. "Is it an animal?" "No," he said. "Animals don't walk like that." His voice wasn't loud or frightened, just steady in a way that made her trust him even more. Another sound drifted through the trees, a faint shout, then silence again. Emma felt her heart lift into her throat. Someone was out there, someone close enough to find this place. Luke glanced back at her. "Inside," he repeated. "Now." She obeyed this time, stepping through the door while he stayed outside a moment longer, scanning the ridge. When he joined her in the cabin, he shut the door quietly, not slamming it, as if he didn't want to give away their presence. Emma stood near the fire, her pulse racing. "Do they know we're here?" "I doubt it," Luke said. He set the rifle beside the window. "Storm's thick. Sound carries strange. Could be travelers. Could be men from Ridgefield. Could be nothing." Emma swallowed. "You think someone followed me?" Luke didn't answer right away. He banked the fire, checked the latch on the door, and only then turned to her. "You came from trouble," he said softly. "Trouble doesn't always stay where you leave it." Emma lowered her eyes. Shame and fear tangled inside her chest. "I didn't mean to bring danger to your home." Quote, Luke stepped closer, not touching her, but close enough she could feel his warmth. "Emma," he said, "no one brings danger. Men choose it with their own hands. You're not at fault for what you ran from." Her throat tightened. Her fingers shook a little, and Luke noticed. He always noticed. "You're safe here," he added. A simple sentence, but the way he said it made her breathe easier. He returned to the window, peering through the fogged glass. The woods were still again. No more cracks. No more voices. Emma wrapped her arms around herself. "Do you think they'll come closer?" "Not tonight," Luke said. "Storm's turning. Mountains getting mean. Anyone with sense will look for shelter or turn back." "And anyone without sense?" she asked. Luke looked at her gently. "Then they'll find me first." Something inside her chest pulled tight at that. The thought of him stepping into danger for her made something warm unfurl inside her stomach, something she had not felt in years. Safety, care, and something deeper still. She pulled her thoughts away and moved to help him with the fire. Luke didn't protest this time. For the rest of the afternoon, they worked around each other in quiet rhythm. Emma mended a tear in her borrowed dress while Luke shaped new kindling. Every now and then, he glanced at the window. Emma did too. As the sky darkened, the storm grew heavier. Snow slapped against the walls in thick waves. The wind howled, like a wild thing. But inside, the cabin glowed warm. Emma sat at the table while Luke prepared a simple stew. His movements were calm and steady, each one making her nerves settle a little more. The smell of cooking meat filled the room. When he set the bowl in front of her, Emma felt her eyes sting again. "You're shaking," Luke said, sitting across from her. "It's only the day catching up to me." "No," he said softly, "you're holding too much inside." She looked down at her hands. "I'm not used to someone caring if I shake." Luke's jaw tightened, not with anger at her, but at whatever had made her say a sentence like that. "You should have had someone," he said. "Maybe," she whispered. When they finished eating, Emma helped wash the bowls. Her hands brushed Luke's once. He stopped. Just for a second, his breath caught the faintest bit. She felt it. He felt it. But he stepped back, giving her space again. Night settled heavy around the cabin. The wind outside roared, but the fire inside glowed soft and warm. Emma lay down in the bed again, and Luke moved to his pallet near the hearth. For a while, neither spoke. Then Emma whispered into the quiet, "Luke, what if someone really is out there?" His answer was steady. "Then they picked the wrong mountain." Another gust shook the cabin. Emma pulled the blanket higher. She watched the firelight flicker across Luke's face. His eyes were open, watching the door, calm as stone. He was a man who carried weight without complaint. A man who didn't raise his voice or boast. A man who treated her with a gentleness she had forgotten existed. She closed her eyes. But sleep didn't stay. Somewhere deep in the night, another sound echoed through the storm. A faint crunch. Closer this time. Emma's eyes snapped open. Luke was already sitting up. "Stay in bed," he whispered. Emma froze as he reached for the rifle and moved toward the dark window, quiet as a shadow. Something, or someone, was moving outside the cabin. Luke stood at the window without breathing. Emma watched him from the bed, every muscle in her body tight. The storm hissed against the logs outside, making it hard to hear anything clearly. But she knew Luke had heard something real. His posture told her that. Still as stone, focused as a man who had survived things he didn't speak about, another soft crunch drifted through the wind. Closer, slow, testing the ground. Emma gripped the blanket, fighting the urge to rise. Her heart pounded hard enough to shake her ribs. Luke didn't turn when he spoke. His voice was low, steady, meant only for her. "Stay where you are, Emma," she whispered back. "Is it a man?" "I'm finding out." He lifted the rifle and moved to the door, keeping to the shadows. He didn't rush, didn't panic. He opened the latch a breath at a time, then cracked the door just enough to look through. Cold air swept in. The fire flickered. Emma shivered. Luke closed the door again and set the bar quietly across it. "What did you see?" she asked. He paused before answering. Tracks. Only one set. One person? Looks like it. Emma stared at him. Someone followed me. Maybe, he said. Maybe someone just got caught in the storm. But his tone said he didn't believe that. Luke turned the lantern down low and banked the fire until only a soft glow remained. The cabin dimmed. Shadows settled along the walls. Get some sleep, he said. I can't sleep. You can try. He walked back to his pallet. I'll keep watch. Emma wanted to argue, but the day had drained her. Her body trembled with exhaustion. She lay back against the pillow, staring at Luke's silhouette by the fire. He sat upright, shoulders squared, rifle across his lap, eyes fixed on the door. He didn't move all night. Emma drifted in and out of sleep. Each time she woke, Luke was still watching, still listening, still guarding her life as if it were the only thing that mattered. By dawn, the storm had eased. Luke rose and pulled on his coat. Stay inside, he said. I'm checking the tracks. Emma sat up. I'm coming with you. No. Luke. For once, he said, turning to her, let me handle what's outside. The quiet force in his voice stopped her. He stepped out into the snow. Emma moved to the window and watched his tall shape cross the clearing. He knelt near the woodpile, then walked toward the trees, studying the ground with slow care. When he returned, he brushed snow from his shoulders and set the rifle aside. It wasn't an animal, he said. Emma swallowed. Who was it? Quote. He shook his head. Footprints lead to the ridge, then vanish. Whoever it was didn't come closer. Emma's hands tightened around her shawl. They know we're here. Luke didn't deny it. You're safe inside this cabin. That's what matters. But she could see tension in his jaw, a tightness he tried to hide. He turned to the stove and set water to heat. We'll eat, then we'll figure next steps. Emma walked to the table, but her legs still felt weak, Luke noticed. He set a steadying hand on her arm. You pushed yourself hard yesterday, he said gently. Don't push more today. Emma looked at his hand, then at him. I'm not used to someone noticing how I feel. Luke let his hand drop, a softness in his eyes that warmed her more than the fire ever had. I notice plenty. Doesn't mean I know what to do with it. Emma's breath caught. The faintest smile touched her lips. I think you do. He cleared his throat and turned back to the kettle, but she saw the color rise in his cheeks beneath his beard. After breakfast, they worked together in quiet rhythm. Emma folded blankets. Luke sharpened tools. The danger outside felt like a shadow. There, but not enough to break the peace inside the cabin. By midday, Emma felt strong enough to step outside for a breath of cold air. Luke followed without being asked, walking beside her as though it was the most natural thing in the world. The snow sparkled under the pale sun. Pine branches drooped under white weight. The world looked softer, calmer. Emma let out a slow breath. It's beautiful. Luke nodded. Mountain has two faces, one kind, one cruel. Which did I meet? She asked quietly. You met both and lived, he replied. They walked a little farther. Emma's steps grew surer. Luke kept close, not touching her, but ready if she slipped. A small drift caught her foot. She stumbled. Before she could fall, Luke's hand wrapped around her waist, steadying her with firm strength. Her breath froze. His hand didn't move. His chest rose and fell a little faster. Emma looked up at him. Snowflakes clung to his beard, melting on his warm skin. His eyes held hers, steady, protective, and something deeper she dared not name. Luke, she whispered. He didn't let go. His thumb brushed lightly at her waist, as if testing whether she'd pull back. She didn't. For a long moment, the world went silent around them. No wind. No danger. Just the soft heat between two people who had been alone too long. Then Luke stepped away, clearing his throat. We should head back, he said. But his voice wasn't steady. Emma followed him inside, her heart beating faster than the storm outside ever could. She had been running from danger. Now she was running toward something else, something steady and warm and frightening in its own way. And Luke Barron felt it too. The next morning brought a sky so clear it almost hurt to look at. Sunlight glimmered across the snow like scattered diamonds. The storm had passed, but Emma still felt the shadow of the night before. She stepped out of the cabin, breathing in the cold air. Luke followed her, not because she needed guarding, but because he seemed unable to let her drift far from his side. "Tracks are gone," he said, scanning the ridge. Snow covered everything in the night. Emma wrapped her coat tighter. "Does that mean whoever it was will return?" "It means they didn't come closer," Luke replied. "And that's enough for today." He spoke with calm strength, the kind that steadies a frightened heart without forcing it still. Emma watched his breath cloud in the air. He looked born for this land, solid, quiet, patient, a man carved out of the same mountains that sheltered him. They walked to the woodpile together. Emma carried small logs while Luke lifted larger pieces with ease. She felt stronger now, more herself, though her body still held old tremors that came and went without warning. "You're healing fast," Luke said, as she set the logs near the door. "Only because you gave me a place to heal," she answered. He froze at that. Only a second. But Emma saw the shift in his eyes, the way something softened and tightened at once. Inside, they warmed the cabin again and shared a simple noon meal. Afterward, Emma sat near the fire with a mended blanket across her lap. Luke shaped new kindling from a block of pine, the scent sweet in the air. There was peace in their work. Peace in the quiet, but also something unspoken building slowly between them, like heat rising from coals. At last, Emma folded the blanket and set it aside. "Luke," she said softly. He looked up. "You've taken care of me without asking for anything in return." He hesitated. "You needed help." "That's not all you gave," she whispered. His jaw tightened. His hands stilled. "I've been alone a long time," Luke said. "Long enough to forget what to do with someone who looks at me the way you do." Emma's heart fluttered. "How do I look at you?" "Like I'm worth trusting." She rose from her chair, her legs steady this time, and walked toward him. Luke didn't move. He watched her as if he feared one wrong breath might break something fragile between them. Emma stopped only a foot away. "You are worth trusting." Luke set down the knife and wood. He looked away, then back again, as if wrestling with something heavy inside. "Emma," he said quietly, "I'm not a gentleman. I've carried more mistakes than I can name. I've lived half wild. I don't know how to talk fancy. I don't know how to promise more than today." Her voice trembled, but not with fear. "I'm not asking for fancy. I'm asking for honest." Luke stepped closer, just a little, enough that she felt the warmth of him. "Honest as this," he said. "I think about you from the moment you wake until the moment you sleep. I listen for your breath at night without meaning to. I look at the door and hope you walk through it instead of the wind. And every time you smile, something in me settles that's been restless for years." Emma's breath hitched. Tears warmed her eyes. "Luke." He lifted one hand, slow enough that she could pull back if she wished. She didn't. His fingers brushed her cheek, rough but tender. She leaned into the touch without thinking. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. "I won't," she whispered back. He lowered his forehead to hers. His breath warmed her skin. His hand cupped the side of her face, steady and gentle, as if she were more valuable than anything he had ever held. "Emma," he murmured, voice trembling for the first time, "I'm falling for you." She closed her eyes. "Then fall. I'm right here." He kissed her, not fierce like the man he once had to be. Not desperate, like someone clinging to warmth in winter. But slow, careful, certain, a kiss that told a story without words, of loneliness ending, of two lives touching at last in a place where the world could not judge them. Emma's hand slipped to his coat. Luke drew her closer, but not with hunger, with devotion, with care, with something deep and steady that built from the inside out. When they parted, their breaths mingled in the warm air. "What do we do now?" she asked softly. Luke brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. "We build," he said simply. "A cabin, a life, whatever you want. You choose, I'll follow." Emma rested her head against his chest, feeling the slow, strong rhythm of his heart. "I'm done running," she said. "I want a place to stay, a place that feels like mine." "You have it," he said. "Right here." She felt the truth in his voice like heat. Outside, the wind softened. The mountains seemed to breathe easier. And inside the small cabin, two people, broken, brave, and healing, made a promise without needing rings or words. They had found each other, and that was enough. If this tale touched your heart tonight, I'd be honored to have you join our little frontier family here. Your subscription helps keep these Wild West stories alive, and it means more to me than you know. If you'd like to hear more journeys of danger, love, and second chances out on the frontier, just hit that subscribe button before you ride out. Thank you for spending your time with me, partner. I'll see you in the next story.